This episode of The Offensive Line is in partnership with Airbnb. As someone who does a lot of solo travel, comfort and reliability are always my top priorities, which is why I like to go with Airbnbs. But more on that later. Let's get back to the show. You're admitting that you're a bridge quarterback, and I don't think any quarterback wants to go out that way.
People should really hate Tom Brady.
There's one thing I've learned in the dating world, guys. Do not go back to your ex.
Because people forget, because Jerry can be such a befuddling mess.
Okay, we may not have been victimized by the tush push. We were victimized by Saquon Barkley.
I think Shedeur Sanders goes in the second half of the first round.
Aaron's got something left in the no, he doesn't. He's the worst quarterback I've ever seen play.
Pat Mahomes, he's got a haircut. He's lost all his aura.
From Wondery, I'm Annie Agar, and this is The Offensive Line. Welcome to The Offensive Line, you guys. We're here to make some picks, talk some and hopefully make you some money. Today, I obviously am your host, Annie Agar, joined by the one and only Super Bowl champion with my Green Bay Packers, former offensive lineman, media personality, and entrepreneur, Marshall Newhouse. Marshall, thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me. How are you?
Of course, I'm great. I'm pretty good. You mentioned it before we hopped on. It's kind of a dead period, and people that work in the NFL and or are a part of the NFL, this is like our downtime. This is like our spring break. We're just venting. We're not researching a bunch like we were all season. So it's kind of a little grace period. Do you feel that? You feel that?
For most of us, yeah. Then there's the crew that immediately hops on a plane to Indianapolis, and you're like, I'm getting texts from them. I'm like, God, I can't imagine when you actually take a breath. So
well, it's weird too, because a lot of them, I feel like they go on a trip right after Super Bowl. So imagine going from like the Bahamas to Indianapolis. It's a very stark contrast there. Yep. So, but there is, do you go to the combine? Are you out at the combine usually?
I have not been since I was a participant, but eventually I will be back in the combine. I don't know in what capacity, but that is the plan.
There's the restaurant, the famous restaurant. I can't think of the name.
St. Elmo's.
Yes. With the shrimp. Have you ever had it? Oh,
yes.
Did you have it? It burned my mouth.
It cleared my nose out. I was an athlete there, and I was just starving. I had been starving myself for 3 months, it felt like. And I'm like, I want a steak. I want shrimp cocktail. I want as much horseradish as you can give me. I can handle it. And I'm just a slobbering, snotty mess at the table after eating that. But it was good.
It does something to you. And the steaks are great. Food is great there, but I was not prepared. And everybody gets it when they go because it's a staple.
You have to.
I was not prepared for it. Not at all. Well, guys, we have a great episode today. Stick around later in the show. I'm going to get to answering your questions that you sent in via Instagram, via Twitter/X. Lots of great questions, so I will be answering those later in the show. But first, we have a lot of things to talk about. Even though it is a slow period in the NFL, there's still things happening, and free agency is less than a couple weeks away. So, Marshall, we like to start off the show with a segment called Too Offensive. These are things that are too offensive for me or you and I to even discuss. So I mention them for maybe like 15 seconds, then we throw them in the NFL trash bin of history to never be spoken about again. So our top three topics that are too offensive to talk about this week. Shedeur Sanders is not throwing at the combine. We knew this for a while. A couple guys opt out of doing this. You know, I'm surprised Cam Ward will probably throw a couple and then opt out halfway through. Canada beat USA in the Four Nations face-off. That sucked, Marshall. That was and it came at the hands of Connor McDavid in overtime. Last minute, it was tough. It was tough to see. Because that would have been a huge win for USA. I haven't seen America that united since literally what the movie Miracle is about. Since that USA hockey team, it was wild to have that kind of unity in late February around a sports outing, a sport event. And lastly, Spain and Ireland confirmed for international games. And there's some talks, Marshall, of Green Bay being one of those teams that plays in Ireland. It might be like a Pittsburgh Green Bay situation from what I'm hearing. From the
I've heard the same thing.
Yeah. Wouldn't that'd be a good matchup?
I'm just blown away, but they're even in these talks because I remember when I was a player, the idea that Green Bay would ever go international, they vetoed every single instance of potentially playing internationally, and now they've gone to Brazil and they might go to Ireland. It just makes no sense to me.
That's so interesting. Was it because of the traditional Green Bay?
Yeah, there's not an owner, and so the things that they do, their status quo is just conservatism. And everything that gets us outside of our comfort zone, that takes away a potential home game and revenue, they're not for it. And so I don't know if it'll end up being a away game or a home game, but they wouldn't have any of that. And as a, historic franchise, they had that leverage and they just never went anywhere.
That is so weird to me. And now they're being pitched as the team to go international 2 times in the past 2 years. And the Brazil game, we won't get into that game because that game sucked. Guys, that's why we're banning the tush push. Anyway, we'll get into that later, Marshall. We'll get into that later. Let's start with some other wild accusations, wild topics in the NFL world, and that revolves around Matthew Stafford. The Rams have reportedly given Stafford's agent permission to seek a trade. They could still bring him back this year, but he wants a new deal. He's made a career of doing some pretty amazing things with wide receivers, and this is a big topic that I want to focus on because Stafford, as he's old, he's 37, right? He's got a lot left in the tank. And this is the weirdest situation for me in the NFL. And there's lots to talk about with potential teams he goes to. But why the Rams? And I get the Rams, shopping him around. I understand that. But the man is still a very talented, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. Think of the wide receivers that he threw to. Calvin Johnson, he had the most receiving yards in a single season. Cooper Kupp was a Triple Crown winner. Puka Nacua, in his rookie year, had most receptions and receiving yards by a rookie in a single season. And probably the most impressive thing that he did for a wide receiver was get Kenny Galladay paid. So this was a big couple seasons for Matthew Stafford. And I'm shocked that the Rams are looking into it, but it's still out there. And a lot of things could happen in the offseason. So what I want to do with you, Marshall, is run through a couple teams, potential landing spots for Matthew Stafford here. And you're just going to tell me, super simple, if it's a good idea or a bad idea. We'll kind of get into them a little bit more. For context, Matthew Stafford's apparently seeking $50 million a year, guys. And this is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So you might think that's insane for a 37-year-old to potentially have to give up a first rounder to, first of all, get him and then pay him on top of that $50 million a season. But he won a Super Bowl. And if Tua and Trevor are worth that, let's be honest, Matthew Stafford might be up there. So, first off, the team that I've seen thrown around the most, the New York Giants. Marshall, is this a good idea or a bad idea for the Giants to land on Matthew Stafford?
Well, I just want to preface all this by saying people should really hate Tom Brady. And I'll tell you why. Because people forget that he is an outlier. He ruined the concept and the perception of what an older quarterback can do. We've now seen Aaron Rodgers try to do it at a increased age to no avail. Matthew Stafford's getting into that level. Tom Brady's one of one. And we knew that from a certain standpoint, but from performance level, and he did it in his 40s. Matthew Stafford's not even 40. He's kind of completely set the standard to an unreachable place. Matthew Stafford, while you say he's good and he had a pretty good year and he's as dangerous as anyone, and especially in one game scenarios in the playoffs, he only had 20 touchdowns this past year. He didn't play particularly well. They stayed in contention. They kind of ground out some games. But listen, will he be, excuse me, is he an upgrade over a lot of scenarios? Yeah. Have the Giants been nothing but a mess for the last 7 years? Yes. But to me, the fit for Matthew Stafford is a team that's like just almost there. Like we are a Matthew Stafford, get us in at 10, 11, 12 wins and make a playoff run type of team. I don't believe the Giants are anywhere near that. And so to me, giving away draft capital when you said you gave away, you let Saquon Barkley walk because you're doing a different kind of rebuild. I saw the press conference today. The first question out of the gate to Joe Sheen was, do you regret the way the Saquon thing was handled? And he said, we were in a different stage or type of build. All right, cool. Well, if you were in that build last offseason, you're probably still closer to that than you are a contending team. And so 100%. Matt Stafford doesn't make sense.
100%. And that trade will live. He'll die with him. Like that's the craziest thing I've ever experienced. And they don't want. However, in regards to that, this has been a terrible offseason, terrible past offseason and season for the Giants, for their GM, for their owner. They're looking to maybe quick fix things and get a couple more wins to keep their jobs, to save their asses. And this might be what they're looking for. But I think it's putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole. I think it's the dumbest thing ever. But anyway, let's move on to the other New York team that also sucks, the New York Jets. Is this a good idea or a bad idea for the Jets? This could be as simple of an answer as you can think of, because it's going off of 140. You just said it with Aaron, going off of one old 40-year-old quarterback who was, we didn't think injury prone, but turned out that didn't work out, to maybe another one. So what are your thoughts on that? Bad or good idea?
It makes even less sense than the Giants, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so many questions, a lot of pending free agents. They just got a new GM. There's too much in flux. And if you're Matthew Stafford, I imagine you want to finish your career out with a bang and in contention. On top of, he's asking for $50 million. Okay, if he can get it, good for him. But the Jets are also not the type of stability that you're looking for. They are actually the opposite of stability. And then you want to go play in a division against Josh Allen, and then at a conference against Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
That's a good point. But when do the Jets make sense, really, though, Marshall? Okay, let's do one that actually is kind of realistic and would be a great landing spot, in my opinion, for him. The Raiders. Good or bad idea? Because Stafford throwing to Brock Bowers, electric. However, the Raiders, I feel like giving up a first, like you might want to package like a second, a third, or maybe a third and a fourth or something if possible, because they need to fix basically their entire roster other than the tight end position. So maybe situationally it's not the best, but in terms of, it would be electric to see, and it would be great for the Raiders, for fans, the fan base. They'd be a lot happier. They'd finally have a quarterback. What are your thoughts on that? Raiders, good or bad?
I like the Raiders a little more. Listen, you said he's got Brock Bowers to throw through. I noticed that you didn't mention anyone else. But that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that there's the cupboards are bare there. I love, actually, sneakily, I love the Pete Carroll hire. It's a culture shift hire. It's a competition development hire. If you remember his time in Seattle, those teams, they had the Legion of Boom, and they built that in a specific kind of way. But if you hear about their practices and the way that their organization was structured, they had competitive guys, and their practices were like all-timers. And so I think changing the way the Raiders are conducting business on a day in, day out basis, I think it's a good hire. I think actually he makes sense, Stafford does, as a bridge quarterback, assuming that they're going to take one of these first rounders and, give Matt Stafford, pay him for the 1 or 2 years while your other quarterback is cheap, and see what you can do and build guys around him and establish a level of winning, an expectation of winning. Because despite what Antonio Pierce and other guys have tried to do, the organization's kind of forgot how to win. And there's something to be said about cultivating an attitude that takes advantage of the margins that the NFL is to win games and be in contention all the time.
Right. And people are saying that too. Like if Stafford goes to a team, and we're about to talk about one where they're locked into either a rookie quarterback or they're building around this future quarterback and he's their franchise guy, you're admitting that you're a bridge quarterback. And I don't think any quarterback wants to go out that way. They're not thinking, oh, yeah, I'm a 1 or 2 year guy. I'll try to get you a couple wins and then I'm out. And one of those teams is the Minnesota Vikings. So is this a good or bad idea if Matthew Stafford were to end up with the Vikings? Now, to preface this, and I didn't really know this, and you can say what you want about SoFi, technically it's an indoor stadium. Matthew Stafford has never played in an outdoor stadium. However, he has played in the NFC North for years, and he played against Green Bay and Chicago on road games all the time in the freezing cold. However, also, Kevin O'Connell, Coach of the Year, was offensive coordinator during the Rams Super Bowl run. And that's an interesting little fit there. So, in my opinion, this is very interesting. And I do want to throw out maybe one other team after this, but Vikings are pretty high on the list, I would think. What are your thoughts? Good or bad idea for Stafford to go there?
Listen, I think it's for Stafford. I think it would be a good idea. US Bank Arena Stadium. That's 8 home games, and then you've got Detroit. That's another home game or indoor game. And so at most, you're probably paying 3 to 4, and you're not assuming they're all going to be cold weather, which we've seen them struggle in. And then, the relationship rekindling with Kevin O'Connell, I think that screams team A that was on the cusp, and B, a quarterback who could take them over the edge. And so to me, it would be about compensation. Now, that's what we're getting back to is, do they have the cap space? Do they have the capital that they're willing to part with for what will be a 1 or 2 year quarterback, while you have JJ McCarthy rehabbing and figuring him if he's the guy or not. So I like that, definitely more than the others. The pre-existing relationship with Kevin O'Connell means a lot. And I think his history in the NFC North also means a lot.
Kevin O'Connell's so good, man.
Mm-hmm.
He's just,
Yes.
look what he did to Sam Darnold. Okay, the one team I do want to just quickly throw out there, maybe the Colts, because the whole Anthony Richardson experiment didn't work out. They need a guy, and they don't have the franchise guy that they're looking at, so this wouldn't be a bridge quarterback situation. However, the one team that I think should land Matthew Stafford on top of all of this, on top of anybody, it would be an absolute lock. He'd be a great fit, would be the Rams, you guys. What is going on? They were, like you just said, if it maybe weren't for the bad weather against the Eagles, they were the toughest opponent the Eagles faced, probably. Yep. Would have maybe won that game if Jalen Carter didn't put a ton of pressure on Stafford, but I just don't understand this situation at all. You won the division. You have Matthew Stafford, who you probably won't find a talent like that. If you do, you have to develop him for several years till you get to that point. It just seems wild to me. Right? Don't you think the Rams stick with him?
Yeah, listen, I understand that your initial reaction is why go somewhere else. And this is the level of the way the NFL works. The Rams have already made it clear through like back channels and leaks. Oh, we would be comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo as our guy. None of us believe that, wholeheartedly, but, Les needs a guy that they take swings and they take chances. And they took a chance in trading for Matthew Stafford. What makes you think they wouldn't take a chance in trading him away, thinking they could do a similar thing with Jimmy Garoppolo? But yeah, I agree with the fit there. I think that would come down to a money thing, because what he does is not allow you to fill out the rest of your roster, even though they drafted incredibly well. Their defensive first-round picks and second-round picks last year, Fisk and Verse, scream that. But you've got to be able to build a balanced, competitive team. And they're always looking to do that. I think even when we thought that they would be nothing a couple years ago, they turned around and were competitive all year. When we thought Sean McVay was going to retire and become a broadcaster, they turned around and were competitive. So they're in no business of just kicking the can down the road. And so, yeah, I think Matthew Stafford on paper, on the field, gives them the best chance to win. To me, it'll come down to, is he stuck on this $50 million? Listen, he is I think current quarterbacks, or maybe all time, he's like top 5 in earnings ever, $300+ million. If you somehow get to a place where this extra $50 million isn't everything, and you convince him, hey, let's make another run, do it for the Gipper type deal, maybe there's a chance. But to me, it's the number that he's asking for and how you build out the rest of your roster.
Yeah, and the pressure's not so much on the Rams, it's on Stafford. He wants this deal done. And interesting development here, I believe, if I'm correct, the same agent that reps Stafford also reps Sam Darnold by the same agency. So it gets a little difficult with pulling the wool over some people's eyes, because the internal workings of what's going on with these two quarterbacks. And speaking of Sam Darnold, let's chat about him a little bit. Because this obviously his big free agent move kind of in the offseason. He's probably the top guy to go after, just because of what we're looking at in free agency. You've got guys like Justin Fields, obviously Jameis Winston, Taylor Heineke, Jacoby Brissett, guys that they'll probably be a starter somewhere, but they're not going to be the Sam Darnold. And that could be Kevin O'Connell making him into what he is, but it was a great year for him. So my first question to you, did he kill the momentum that he had mid-season? Because we thought this is not the Sam Darnold we saw in the Jets over the last 2 games, because it got a little rough towards the end there. Did that kind of kill the momentum for his ability to make a big move in this offseason?
No, I don't think he killed the momentum. So what people get lost in those moments is, the Sam Darnold we saw the first 6 years on 3 different teams, was the level of who he is. But then the Sam Darnold we saw for 14 games is also what he's capable of. You don't you don't erase the previous 6 years of bona fide stuff by 14 games. And then you don't erase the 14 games of all-time performance on his behalf with a bad playoff performance and a bad. So we don't have to go in these wild swings. I think he is better than we thought his ceiling might be. He was in an incredibly fitting offense and scheme that allowed him to show his, the abilities that we thought he was as a first-round quarterback. But he is not a top 10 quarterback. And so I think all those things can be true. And so if you're a team looking for a Sam Darnold type to sign and get paid $50-60 million, you've got to know that. And so, the margins between all the best teams and the worst teams are we make good decisions, but we're decisions that don't handicap us long term. Someone signing Sam Darnold isn't a handicap, but if you give him a long-term deal, then you're speaking a different language. And so he has earned his right to get paid. I want every guy to get paid. It's just someone's going to have to do it and understand what made him the best version of himself, and what do we have in-house to replicate that? Because him going to just a barren wasteland, I think he'll immediately revert to what he was without some semblance of that, infrastructure.
Yeah, and what's funny too is a great, maybe not great, but a potential landing spot, which would make a lot of sense on paper if it weren't for the history that they had together, would be the New York Jets, you guys. And over the last 9 seasons, there's only one quarterback to win more than 5 games as the Jets starting quarterback. It's Sam Darnold. So as much as people want to hate him in the Jets organization, it was an Adam Gase situation. He was working with Chosen Anderson as his wide receiver 1. It was wild. So it could be an interesting situation, but do you see him ever going back to the New York team?
They just don't get benefit of the doubt in my eyes of doing things that seem wise. Yeah. He would be a good choice just from like, hey, we're trying to change our stripes. And this is an honest direction that we're trying to go. He has earned the right to be a starting quarterback. I think we can help him if we draft well and we do all the things well, but that's so many ifs for an organization that just hasn't shown that. So, we could all play into the, don't go back to your ex type deal. And there's a lot of that emotional stuff involved. Fine. But this is a business. If he could help them and they understood what that looked like and how to build around him, then it would make sense and you would do that all day. But I don't think that they're in that space to do that. They haven't shown us that in the entirety of their organization.
There's one thing I've learned in the dating world, guys. Do not go back to your ex. That's bad. Do you have any bad ex stories, Marshall?
I don't.
That's so good.
I don't get caught up in all that. The first problem is not dating wild people. And so things end. But if they end, they end amicably, and you're like, all right, we're adults. We can handle this. So it's about how you start. Yeah.
Yes.
How you start.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. My therapist says the same thing. Okay. Let's move on to another offseason topic. I mentioned it at the start of the season. The Packers are doing some things this offseason. Hopefully. We did make a splash last year, and I will credit Goody because we usually don't do much in the offseason. We were not known for being a big partaker in free agency, but the whole Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones things happened last year. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the Packers offseason because we have a pivotal offseason ahead. Josh Jacobs mentioned something about a wide receiver 1. He mentioned it. It was during Super Bowl week. And I think he mentioned a specific wide receiver. He had one wide receiver in mind, Devontae, but we'll get into that in a little bit. There's also Jair Alexander's being thrown around as he's not the future of our organization anymore. And maybe we'll start there because he makes an impact, all right? In the last 2 seasons, he only appeared in 14 games, which sucks. We know the injuries are there. He's not consistent at all. But in those 7 games last year, he had 2 interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown, a fumble recovery, and 16 tackles. He also allows a completion percentage of 57% compared to Valentine, who was at 76%. He makes an impact. He makes a huge impact. Do you see the Packers moving on from Jair this offseason? Or just...
Listen, I don't think they should, but I do see them moving on just because they're the one thing the Packers always have been, and will be is a team that will move on sooner than later. And I saw it happen time after time with guys teammates who I was like, man, why didn't we keep him? He was, we know exactly what he brings. He's going to do this, that, and the other.
Marshall, you're preaching to the choir. I know.
So, the Packers are nothing if not consistent. And so if I had to put money on it, that's probably where they'll go, and they'll find youth and some version of a platoon to replace his production in a kind of a Billy Bean Moneyball kind of way. But that would still be a vacuum. I think that the McKinney signing was a huge swing as well. I think it's mostly gone well, but he's had some moments as the deep safety where he flashes. But yeah, listen, a Jair Alexander, who was a homegrown guy, you would like to see him kind of get extended and continue to build this team for a college defensive coordinator who had a splashy kind of interesting year as his first year in pros. But listen, again, I let people be who they are, and the Packers are who they are, and we take it and leave it. And I imagine they're going to let him walk and test the market.
That's a good point. Green Bay Packers will be the Green Bay Packers. That Xavier McKinney thing, another great deal for the Giants. That was hilarious. But Jeff Hafley he had a great. It was completely different than Joe Barry.
Yeah,
Joe Barry's a great coach, I'm sure, but I called for him to get fired a couple times because I was a little annoyed with how the season was going. But Jeff Hafley looks great, and now we have this defense that is playing to the level that we thought they could play at. You just need the guys to be consistent. Let's flip over to the offensive side of the ball a little bit. Wide receivers. I think that's going to be obviously the Packers' main focus with everything going on with Dobbs and the young receiver core that we had and the drops. Oh my God, the drops. So we need a solid wide receiver. And I don't know if we target that, and you can maybe tell me this, in the draft or in free agency, or if we try to do a little bit of both, because knowing the Packers, you talked about being consistent, they'll probably draft a wide receiver in the second round. But we do have excess cap space for the first time since 2020. We don't have guys from the 2021 draft class. There are no premium players that need huge re-signing or contract extensions. This is the year, I feel like, to focus on these offseason moves, specifically free agency, because we have the ability to do that. Do you see us going for a wide receiver more so targeting these guys like maybe Debo or DK or Cooper, or staying and waiting for the draft?
I see them having, being in the conversations, but again, it'll be about value. That they're not going to be, they're going after the Josh Jacobs can say what he wants, and I understand how he feels, but that's just unlike the organization that he's now a part of. And honestly, I don't think it would immediately fix everything, because they're going to have to figure out their offensive line, and you're not getting the ball. You're not running like you did last year, Josh Jacobs, and
Right.
whoever this mystery X number one receiver is not getting the ball if the offensive line is not consistent. And so they've got guys who are free agents, a lot of in-house guys, some guys who came out of the program. So they've got to solidify that before, I think, any big wide receiver name drop guy. But I think there's value there. So say the Cooper Kupp market softens, and people worried about his age and his ability.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see the Packers getting in there and getting him on a 1 or 2 year deal, team friendly deal that allows him to kind of get inserted in there and help Jordan Love out. That's absolutely something I see them doing. And then obviously they're a team that'll draft for value as well. And then listen, I don't know if guys just get cured of the drops out of nowhere, but Dontavian Wicks is a top 3 receiver as far as separation rate. I saw an advanced metric. He gets open more consistently than almost anybody else in the league, and then he drops half the balls. So listen, if they can get him or Dobbs or Watson, one of these guys, to click, and that's sometimes how it happens. I played with, excuse me, James Jones, Jordy Nelson. A lot of these guys weren't immediately impact players from day one. It took them 2, 3, year 4, and they got consistent in the program. And you saw, the light bulb go on, and they were playing their role really well, and they're excelling at their role. And so, you're hoping that's the best case for this wide receiver core.
Yeah, and we thought that at the beginning of the season, because there was no clear wide receiver one. So, and Jordan Love was great with that, because instead of just targeting your top guy like a Justin Jefferson, you didn't know where you should just target whoever was open. Mm-hmm. And that made it really hard on defenses to guard us. However, catching balls would be really helpful as well. So we'll see how that works out this offseason. You mentioned the offensive line a little bit. I do want to touch on that, because obviously that is your area of expertise. We always seem to be hurt constantly. What are our offseason moves there to kind of bulk up this offensive line? Do we target it a lot? There's got to be emphasis on it, right, this offseason?
Yeah, they'll emphasize it. I think they've got to secure the tackle spots. And who's going to be a consistent guy that Jordan Love knows is there? There's only so many Dave Bakhtiaris that come around, but there are guys, I think, that either in the draft, in the first half, second half of the first round, who you can go get, who could be day one upgrades. And then, they've drafted some guys who haven't really, been what they thought they would be. And that's, their first round pick out of Arizona, looking for him to kind of take a step up. And so, yeah, they've got enough talent to make it work, but it feels mismatched. The offensive line in Green Bay right now feels unsettled. And I think that might mean moving a couple guys around and finding some guy under the radar. But again, if you have a need that you think only can be rectified by a big splashy free agency signing, it ain't happening. More times than not, it's not getting fixed. And so it's got to come from within house.
If we do fix all of these areas that we just talked about, in your opinion, what is the ceiling for the Green Bay Packers this coming season?
Listen, it's a fun thing that they're hosting the draft in Green Bay. I wish I was going. I was close to going.
Oh, shoot.
That would be an incredible start to a year where I believe that they absolutely can contend with the Philadelphia Eagles. Are they on the same pace, talent for talent? Not quite, but they're absolutely a team that, if you saw last year, the losses to Detroit, Minnesota, outside, I think there's one blowout and one game that kind of got out of hand, but these were close games that you needed a guy. You needed just a guy to take over the game, get you a conversion, a score, a turnover, or something. And they're missing just a playmaker, a star, a stud, and they're right there in the thick of things in the NFC.
That's a great point. You feel the youth on the team when you need that guy to step up, because it's a lot to put pressure on these 20-something-year-old guys, and you can feel that in these close games. However, the Bears game was an anomaly. We'll just forget about that for the rest of time, that we let them win. We had a bunch of backups. Okay, Marshall, put on your tights, because next we're talking NFL Combine. Stay right here, guys, with the offensive line. One of my favorite perks of staying in an Airbnb is sometimes when you're checking in, you can meet the hosts in person. It's really nice to know you're staying in a home that they really, truly love and care about. When I was in California and staying in an Airbnb for the big game, I met the host and she actually made me a drink and we chatted for a little bit. When you travel a lot on your own, you get really good at finding reliable places, because if you don't do it, who will? That's why Airbnb is always my go-to, because of their great reviews. Airbnb makes it super easy to see all the guest feedback in one place. I always check out their guest favorites, because then you know there's a bunch of great reviews and it's a tried and true place. So that's where you should start if you're looking to book your next Airbnb. Also, every Airbnb I've stayed at has a more homey feeling compared to a hotel room. I love having a proper living space so I can do all the things I need to, like edit for work or to just unwind. Plus, having that extra space is so great when you're traveling with friends and family, because then you have a place to hang out. All right, guys, welcome back to the offensive line. The NFL Scouting Combine is this week. The quarterbacks throw on Saturday, but the action starts on Thursday. It'll be a fun week. It gets you excited for the season a little bit more, to see the potential future of the NFL. Marshall, what was your experience like at the Combine? Because you ran a 4.99 40-yard dash, which was 97th percentile for an O-lineman. That's pretty impressive.
I appreciate you getting that correct and not putting me in the fives. People just round up. I'm like, that matters. Don't put me in the fives when I ran a 4.9.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 4.99 sounds so much better anyway. Exactly. Wait, is that like your favorite, the highlight of the Combine for you?
The whole experience was awful. I hated it. It's the most stressed and anxious you'll ever be. It's just a big job interview. You put in all the mental stuff. You're getting, MRIs on your body. You're taking a mental acuity tests for concussion protocol. You're getting interviewed by teams. And the whole point is to stress you out. I get it. And I'm fine under stress, but it's not something I liked and I wanted to do. And then there's a part where you literally strip down to your tights and you walk up on stage like you're a cow at a rancher sale. And you turn around, you do a little twirl in front of all the GMs in the sky. It's just the weirdest meat market looking thing. The whole process is just wild to me. Listen, it made me a lot of money. I'm happy I performed well, but it was not something I look back on fondly.
Oh, yeah. Did you have to take the, either was it Wonderlic at the time or the?
Yeah, I only had the Wonderlic and I crushed it. Not a big deal. But
so business school's paying off, guys.
It was stressful. I'm just like, man, this is awful. And, part of it is how you react to that stress and that environment. But I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. People don't understand how bad it is.
So in your opinion, is the Combine pretty pointless then? I mean, what, other than to get these players under stress? I mean, it's bad for you guys, it feels like.
It's not pointless, but I think it could be fine-tuned in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of unnecessary stuff. A lot of the field stuff listen, all the coaches that you see on the field on NFL Network, they get kind of freedom over what drills they choose, and some are the ones that they like, but they don't translate to anything on the field. It's just what they're looking for. It's just, it's just kind of I get that it's TV product. And for a lot of guys, it's a great opportunity to get in front of and compete more. I'm fine with that. But I think it can be refined. I think it could be a much better situation for the players.
Yeah, because then you have the guys like, Zach Wilson and Anthony Richardson, who threw bombs probably from their knees, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're the second coming of Tom Brady, and now look where we are. So it's very interesting. My personal take on the combine is that I want everybody who's on this stage to be able to show me exactly what I'm looking for from future NFL players. So Marshall, I have a couple ideas here of how to improve the combine. Would you like to hear them?
Let's do it.
So these are my ideas for what the event should be. These are much more applicable to the NFL, okay? Instead of the stupid standing and doing a circle in front of GMs. Okay, so the first one is how many pancakes can an O-lineman eat in 30 minutes? That would tell me a lot about the guy. Okay, that's a big one. This is my personal favorite. How quickly can a wide receiver properly subtweet his quarterback?
That's a good one.
You guys know the best wide receivers subtweet like crazy. It's the best. So I want to know how well they can do it. Another one is how will a cornerback celebrate when he has literally no impact on the play? That's another big one. This is also my favorite one. This is in regards to Tyreek Hill. How quickly can a wide receiver procreate in a single year? Like how many children can we produce? That we need to know that.
All right.
How many head coaches can you get fired? Hot take. How many of the same coach can you get fired? Cough, cough, Derek Carr.
Wow.
And how much time does it take a player to crash out on social media? This is a big one this year because we saw it happen a lot.
Wow.
A lot of the wide receivers, this is a big wide receiver one as well. And the last one is the best ref insults in 2 minutes. Like I put 2 minutes on the clock. You give me the best insults you've ever given a ref in your life. Wouldn't that information be perfect for NFL fans as opposed to this 50-yard bomb you can throw? Like, I want to know the personality traits of these players, right?
Listen, all those will show some true versatility. Listen, you got to have mental toughness. Got to be quick on your Twitter fingers.
Right.
Yeah, that's a wide range.
Feet, on your Twitter fingers, guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Okay. How about you? Any ideas? Any events you'd like to see?
Listen, you had some great ones. I think. Listen, I want to see. I want to see a flopping contest by some of these quarterbacks when they're at the sideline. Yeah. Like how much can you put your diva on?
Yeah.
I want to see, this isn't even a player thing, but I want to see the hold me back coach do like some reps when he's pulling back the head coach.
That's a great one.
That's
so underrated in the NFL these days.
Yeah.
Think of all the flags they'd get if they weren't for the hold back guy.
And then shout out to, what's the kicker's name for the Commanders? I want to see the kicker, traditions before they kick. Listen. Okay, let me preface. If he's got a significant mental condition called OCD, I'm not making fun of that. I'm just saying they have unique.
Way to preface.
They have unique ways of preparing for a kick, quirky ways. Right. Kickers are already weird. I'd like to see some of those.
Right, 100% agree. Way to give that little asterisk.
Listen,
because we don't make
people.
But they do. It's wild. It's like MLB players when they fix their gloves 50 times.
Yes.
We probably all have some OCD in us.
Oh, for sure.
I know that.
For sure.
All right, Marshall, since we are talking combine, we are going to do a little combine of our own. But since we're in the media, we're not doing a combine based on our bodies and the physical aspect of it. We're going to hone in on our hot takes, okay? So this is a combine for our hot takes on the NFL. We're going to start with the broad jump, okay? We're going to be jumping to conclusions. So I'm going to say a phrase that happened recently, or that's a fact in the NFL, and we're going to try to jump to the biggest conclusion from it. So I'll go first. You can see what kind of sounds like, and then I'll give you your take. So my fact is that the Commanders have the third most cap space currently in the NFL this offseason. So my broad jump here, Commanders are going to get Myles Garrett. They're going to win the Super Bowl this year with Jaden Daniels in his second year. He's going to have a better second year than C.J. Stroud. They're going to be the best team in the NFC. That is my broad jump. Thoughts? What do you think about that? That's pretty reasonable. Listen,
they're a legit landing spot for Myles Garrett if the Browns actually approve a trade. So I don't think that's too bad at all. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, here's yours. Here's your broad jump time. Zach Martin is retiring with the Cowboys. That is the big news recently. So broad jump from there about the Cowboys' future, anything like that. What's your broad jump?
Well, the broad jump, I don't even know if it's a broad jump because people forget because Jerry can be such a befuddling mess. They've actually drafted offensive linemen incredibly well for a decade. They've got Zach Martin, Hall of Famer. They've had centers, Tyron Smith. They've had elite offensive linemen over and over and over again. They just screw up almost everything else. But as far as linemen, they figured it out.
That's a great point. There's one thing they do right is offensive linemen. I like that. That's good broad jump. Okay, I feel pretty good. With our broad jump. Let's move on to your specialty, Marshall, the 40-yard dash.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be 40 seconds. We'll be on the clock. We're going to have 40 seconds to name as many hot takes as we can. It's going to be a little bit tougher. I didn't write any out because I want to be fair with you.
So these are just off the cuff, or we?
Off the cuff could be NFL related, could be anything and everything. Okay, are we ready? I'll go first here. Ready, set, go. Okay, I'm gonna start with the Packers are going in the Super Bowl this year. With Devontae Adams, that's the second take. Devontae Adams will come back to Green Bay. I'm gonna say a hot dog is not a sandwich. That's the dumbest take ever. In that same vein, water's not wet. Cody Johnson is the best country singer of all time. That's actually a very hot take. If you like country music, that's a hot take. The Cowboys are gonna win 5 games this next season. I already said that one. That's a good one though. Commanders are gonna win the Super Bowl. Oh man, this is hard. What are some other ones? Oh my gosh, I have 5 seconds. Marshall Newhouse is the best offensive lineman.
Hey, not hot take.
Thank you. Okay, I don't know how many that was.
You set the bar out, man. I don't know about this
7?
one.
I had 7. Okay, I thought I had way more.
I've got to retool my brain to just say whatever. That's the hard part. I'm so.
You went from studying and now you just have to say random things. Okay.
I know.
It's a lot harder than you think because 40 seconds is not that much time. You think you'd need more. Okay, are you ready? 40 seconds on the clock. 3, 2, 1, go.
I think Shedeur Sanders goes in the second half of the first round. I think the Patriots win the AFC East next year. I think that waffles are much better than pancakes. It's not even a question.
Great take.
Speaking of Wisconsin, I don't know if you're there. Spotted beer is the best beer in the country, I believe. I miss it dearly. I think Aaron Rodgers signs with the Tennessee Titans. I think, oh man.
3 seconds. Those are good takes, though. Hey, quality over quantity sometimes.
There you go.
I may have won quantity-wise, but quality of takes was great. The waffle one for sure. And the people, beer in Wisconsin, you got to tell the people, Marshall, so good. Is it not the best?
It's the best, and I wish I had more awareness of, what beer does to you, because I enjoyed a lot of it when I was younger, when I was playing for the Packers. But it was great. I miss specifically the New Glarus Spotted Cow. It's hard to get out of state. I miss it.
Yes. People drive into Wisconsin in the Midwest. They'll go get Spotted Cow in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Drive it out. They do that in Michigan, too, because I'm from Michigan originally.
Okay.
Michigan has great breweries, great beer. Yes, Two Hearted's a great beer. Okay, guys, enough beer talk. We're getting thirsty around here. The last one is the shuttle drill, where you switch direction. You guys have seen it before. Usually they do it with the ball. We're going to do it with a whistle. So when you hear a whistle, I'm going to give a take, and then you have to defend that take until you hear the whistle. Then you have to completely switch directions and do the opposing take side of that take and defend yourself there. It's going to be very interesting because this first one is very close to home for me. So I'll say mine first. Here we go.
All right.
Ready? My take is, should Aaron Rodgers retire? I'm going to go on the side of 100% yes, okay? He's limiting his ability to retire with grace because of coming out the season that he had. Obviously, it hurt him a lot that first season. We didn't expect the injury that he had. But, there you go. Now I got to switch. But, guys, he has a lot of great years left, okay? He's a Hall of Fame guy. He got us to a Super Bowl. Like we said earlier, Tom Brady could do it. Aaron's got something left in the... No, he doesn't. He's the worst quarterback I've ever seen play. He's absolutely atrocious. He's got literally nothing, guys. He can barely even run out of the pocket. Nobody should be paying... They should really pay this man. I really think he could be a starting quarterback somewhere. If you're looking at Aaron Rodgers, your season's done. You should not be looking at Aaron. There should be no team... Oh my gosh, this is so hard. If you're the Steelers, for example, look at Aaron Rodgers to be maybe that bridge quarterback that you're looking for. Because as I said before, he could win you a Super Bowl. And that's the end of my discussion. That is so hard to do, but actually hilarious. Okay.
That's more gymnastics than anything else.
So much. Yeah. So much gymnastics. There was probably no factual basis to my argument there. I just had to keep switching back and forth.
No, it's okay though.
Guys, I feel like Stephen A. This is ridiculous. I'm just kidding.
It's
I'm
the
just
expert,
kidding. More like Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd just takes a lot. Okay, your take here, Marshall.
Okay.
Is the Chiefs dynasty over? So you can start on one side. When you hear the whistle, you gotta defend the other side.
Well, of course it's over. Travis Kelce is probably going to retire. He's going to go become an actor and be, have sugar mama Taylor Swift. And Pat Mahomes, he's got a haircut. He's lost all his aura. Kansas City, listen, they just won multiple Super Bowls in 4 years. They lost one. Okay, yeah, what? They still have Pat Mahomes. They've got Andy Reid. They're not going anywhere. They're going to draft. They got a guy. Listen, they didn't have a running back last year. They didn't have a left tackle. They're doomed. They don't have anybody in the roster who's going to replace those guys. I don't understand. Listen, they absolutely have Joe Thuney, who was playing left tackle, who should have been playing left guard at his Pro Bowl position. They'll figure things out. Chris Jones is still there. Steve Spagnuolo is still there. Listen, they've lost. Harrison Butker's going to lose them a bunch of games next year. He's going to get the yips or something. My brain's in a pretzel. I can't do this.
That is amazing. That was the best thing ever. It was the listen every time when you'd have to think about which side you're on. Well, listen.
It's just a verbal pause.
That was so good. This might be my favorite game we've ever played on the show.
All that bullshit coming out. But it's
we need a spotted cow. We need a spotted cow.
Yeah.
Okay, the final and last one. That was probably my favorite game we've ever played on the show. This is the 3-cone drill. Our goal is to rank the definitive top 3 ice cream flavors. There's only one correct answer here.
Whoa.
I'll list mine first. I know.
Okay.
This is a tough one. This might be the hardest drill we've done.
You going 3, 2, 1?
3, 2, 1, yes.
Okay.
This might be specific to Michigan too, which I need to know.
Very
the
regional.
third, yes. The third one, in my opinion, and this is a hot take because I know a lot of people don't like it, is mint chocolate chip. It's not toothpaste. It is an undefeated flavor. I love mint chocolate chip. The second one, I think is cookie dough. I think that's kind of a universal one. It's I would say my personal favorite if this top one didn't exist, and I hope this exists everywhere, Mackinac Island fudge. Is that everywhere? Because Mackinac Island's in Michigan. Oh!
Is it just fudge ice cream?
Fudge is the best ice cream ever. It is, yes. It's vanilla ice cream with like ripples of fudge and then chunks of fudge. It is so good.
Listen, ice cream is ice cream. There's not bad ice cream. But that being your number one, I got issues with that.
That's okay. You can have concerns. I have concerns with myself as well. Okay, what are your top 3?
Top 3. All right, we're gonna go. Listen, don't sleep on it.
Okay.
Pistachio. Don't sleep on it.
Oh, pistachio is great.
It's so good. It's so good. And I had it first as a gelato, but pistachio ice cream in the right place, real good. All right, number 2 for me. So I grew up as a chocolate peanut butter fiend. I am now team lemon blueberry bar. There's a place here called Jenny's that does like a lemon blueberry. Woo, it'll light you up. It's good.
Interesting.
And then my number 1, I'm a Texas boy, Southern boy, pecans, pralines, and cream, or butter pecan. There's a bunch of different ways, but that's got to be number 1 for me. Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Is it pralines? Did I say it?
Praline.
Pralines. Because I was just in New Orleans for Super Bowl. And they have the best there. Oh, so good.
Creole Creamery, shout out.
Well, your list might be a little bit better. Mine's a little too generic.
You went so regional.
I gotta try the lemon blueberry. Yeah, I went really reasonable.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's terrible. I gotta branch out a little bit more. All right, guys, coming up, we're talking about the Tush Push Band, of course, and the Green Bay Packers. Stay right here on the offensive line. Welcome back to the offensive line, you guys. We have some news that happened this week. A team has proposed a ban on the Tush Push, and that team is none other than the Green Bay Packers. How do we feel about this, Marshall? I have a hot take on it. It's not actually a hot take, but I have a take on it. But it also leads into my no offense that we do every week, and I really want to just let loose during my rant. So I'll let you take the stage right now. You tell me what you think about the Packers.
I want people to understand that it is your job to stop something, regardless of how you feel about it. And so teams need to devise a plan. Sometimes it's just physics and you're not going to win. But until, I get it. If Philly was doing it every play and we turned it into just a scrum, that's not good for the product. The NFL would figure that out right away. But they're doing it in short yardage and goal line. Do I wish that they had more creative play calling? Yes. But as a player, if I had a guaranteed conversion and I'm getting closer to the Super Bowl because this is a play that can't be stopped, I'll do that all day. I have no problem with it all day.
The one thing, and that's the big take is, well, just stop them then. But the one thing that they were talking about this morning on Get Up, it was to help to assist another offensive player who had the ball was illegal up until 2005. They took that away because apparently officials couldn't tell if someone was assisting the player holding the ball or not, which is kind of a dumb reason to take something away. Just you can tell very easily with the tush push who's pushing the tush, who's assisting the guy holding the ball. But I do have more to vent about, but I'll get to that in a second. Another topic in the NFL that's come up is there might be some changes, and there are a lot of rule changes. It feels like recently there's been a lot of rule changes with making it more safe for the players out there, which is great. But in terms of like making it more entertaining, you just want to make sure it's actually going in the right direction and it's benefiting the fans watching and the players and their safety. The NFL Competition Committee Chairman Rich McKay also said that it might be a 4th and 15 or 20 situation instead of an onside kick as the alternative for an onside kick. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard anything about that? Taking it, I think, from the UFL, right? UFL inspired?
Yeah, I remember hearing that a couple of years ago, and actually I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Listen, if they're going to do away with being able to do a surprise onside kick, this is the next evolution. Just to be like, all right, we want the ball back. This is a play. You designate the gain line and just let us go get it. And so I'm okay with that openness of it, because the rule that they changed that did away with the surprise onside kicks, it reduced what was already a low percentage play to like next to nothing, and so that takes away an entirely exciting part of the game. I get there's a safety issue there. So all right, if we're going in that direction, they just make it a play, make it a one-off.
Yeah, if low percentage is correct, because I looked this up, the recovery rate is 13.5% on onside kicks. So you think your team has a shot? You probably don't. You have more of a shot on 4th and 15, 4th and 20. It's just hard to see the game we love change, and I think that's what people freak out about. They just don't want to see change. But some change can be good, guys. Okay, now on to my favorite segment of the show. This is No Offense. We just talked about it a little bit. This is where you get a chance to rant about anything and everything, Marshall. So you can pick a topic and just let loose for however long you want. We can't say anything. The only thing you have to do is start by saying no offense, but, because everybody knows when you say no offense, you're not being offensive. Exactly. So I'll start. You can hear what it sounds like. This is going to be on something that we just mentioned. I think you guys kind of know where I'm going with this. Are you ready, Marshall?
Ready.
Okay. No offense, but this is absolutely embarrassing for the Green Bay Packers to be the ones to talk about the tush push ban. First of all, we didn't get tush push the entire Brazil game, not once during the last game of the season. I don't understand where this is coming from and why we were the ones to do it. I'm great with the tush push being banned. Whatever you guys want to come up with your stats on it, that's fine. It should not be the Green Bay Packers that are bringing this to light. We're like the little kid in the classroom sits in the corner and goes, teacher, it was them. It was them right over there. And I hate it for us, okay? We may not have been victimized by the tush push. We were victimized by Saquon Barkley. That's a totally different point, you guys. But stop. There's one way to stop the tush push, and that's stopping the team on the play before that, which is what we try to do. I don't understand why the Packers are the idiots in the corner calling out the bad kid in the classroom, but it makes us look stupid. And now we're the talk of the town in the worst way possible. I'm mad about it. Don't love it. I'm ashamed of it. So that's my rant for the day.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's definitely the Packers being the people that are asking for more homework.
Why do we want to put the spotlight on us even more? Just sit, have a quiet off season, get your deals done, get Myles Garrett, hopefully, and then just be quiet. Okay, Marshall, your turn to rant.
I'm ready. No offense, but the refs are not out to get you. We had an entire season talking about the refs being in the pockets of the Kansas City Chiefs, play after play. And yes, were they bad at times? The refs were awful at times, objectively. Did the Chiefs get all the calls? No. Did they get some? Yeah, but they didn't get more. You know how I know that? There are stats to prove that they didn't get more calls. Not only that, there was a moment where the head judge in a game went to the sideline and apologized to Josh Allen on camera. So can we do away with the refs being against you? If anything, the refs are for themselves, and too often they're tripping over their own feet. So let's get them more accurate overall, but there's not a conspiracy against your team. Your team, the Jets or whoever, are just probably bad and maybe should do more things within the margins of the rules, like bend the rules to your will. Don't complain about the refs. They're not that all powerful. They're not that competent, which is a problem in its own self, but they're not out to get you.
That's a great point. That's a great take. I love it. Especially coming from a player, because so many fans, like, we sit at home every day. This is coming from the fan perspective. Obviously, I never played in the NFL. And we just think we can call games a lot easier. Human error is a thing here, people. You can have human and my take during Super Bowl, everybody was like, oh, the refs are going to decide the game for the Chiefs. If you say to somebody, don't think about an elephant, what are they going to think of immediately? They think about an elephant. Yeah. So all of the refs were thinking was, oh my God, don't screw this game up. Like, don't call a big... I just couldn't imagine being an NFL official. It would just suck because everybody's on your back. So great take.
Their job is super hard. But they have more rules than ever that they are watching for. We in training camps, we'd always get an official. They spread themselves out around the league, and they'd come and watch film with us, and we'd get to ask them questions. What are you looking at? We're like, if you're a back judge, you're looking at the right guard and right tackle, or you're looking at the linebacker, this part of the field. So we knew what was in each guy's purview, and it's difficult. And so we have more understanding of what they go through on a game-by-game basis. It happens fast. This game is a fast game.
That is very cool. That's great. And that, like you said, too, once you know that, bend the rules a little bit, you guys. Players get creative out there.
There you go.
I like it. Great take, Marshall. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and taking time out of your busy schedule and your off season to hang out with us and talk some more football. Because there's no off season, right? Right, Marshall?
Never ends. 365. We'll keep going.
It never ends. Well, I appreciate you very much. Hopefully you'll come back and join us. Maybe during the season where the Packers are, on a 10-game win streak or something like that. That'd be
there you go. Anytime. I'd love to have it.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, guys. Lastly on the show, we're going to try something new today. This weekend, I put out a post asking for your guys' questions, and I got quite a few of them. So we're going to wrap up the show by answering some of the fan questions. We're going to do this a lot more in the off season. That way you guys can kind of get to know me a little bit more, get to know what my off season is like. So let's start with Through a Wine Glass asked, what is your Mount Rushmore of football movies? First of all, great question. I watch a lot of football movies. I'm going to say number one overall is Invincible. I absolutely love the movie Invincible. Number two, Remember the Titans. It's close. Those two, it's like 1A and 1B. This is kind of controversial because I know people either don't like or like this movie. Draft Day. I'm gonna say Draft Day is a great movie. And I just realized it was football movies, so I can't say Miracle. That's my other favorite sports movie. I'll probably say this one might be a little bit niche. I don't know if you guys seen it. Facing the Giants. Great movie. That was just a great movie where he does the crawl on the oh my gosh, I could talk about it for forever. But great movie. Those are my Mount Rushmore of football movies. Next question. Will you ever join your brother in the fun and race a half or full Ironman? Guys, I actually started doing triathlons with my dad and brother. That's kind of how we all got into it. When Johnny first wanted to do a triathlon, we did sprint distances and Olympic distances, and it was the three of us as a team. So I've always wanted to do a half or a full. Obviously, the training involved is insane, and my dad took that over, and there was no way I could keep up with that at all. And he's an absolute beast. So I do someday maybe have the intention of potentially doing a race. We'll see how that goes, but it's a possibility. Okay, next question. How did you come up with the NFL Weekly Meeting idea, and does it hurt you to put on a Bears jersey each week? Great question. This is off of Twitter/X. I came up with the idea during COVID. Obviously, we needed a little comedy, I felt, at the time. Everybody was kind of down, and we weren't talking about sports, so I did a Big Ten video, and overnight it got 3 million views. You guys are incredible, and I realized that's kind of what we need right now, maybe some comedic relief, so I started doing these weekly NFL videos, and that's how it started. And yes, it pains me to put a Bears jersey on. The fact that I own several Bears jerseys is just absolutely wrong. But I do it for you guys, so that is the pain that I live with. Next question. What is something that will always make you smile? I love this question. Probably my family. There is nothing better than at the end of a long day, and it's, as much as I love football and I love the NFL, it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and it's, putting out content is a lot of work, and I can have the longest, most stressful day, and my brother calls me or my sister calls me or my family. I talk on the phone with my mom all the time. My dad calls me, and my dad has great sense of humor. Any of those four people can just make my day so much brighter. So I absolutely will say my family makes me smile all the time. Next question. Besides your Packers, if you could be the GM for any NFL team from now through the draft, which team would you pick? This is a great question. I honestly, we talked about this on the show. I'd probably go Commanders because they have the third most cap space. They have the most, I would say one of the highest ceilings because of how far they went last year. Jaden Daniels, incredible quarterback. just the potential that team has, I think would be so fun to know, and everybody would be excited. Like, you could potentially make a bad move and people would still be like, well, you got this far. Like, I just got Jaden Daniels, so you can't really screw it up anymore. Basically polar opposite of the Cowboys. I would probably say the Commanders. Next question. When did you feel like you made it? This is a great question. I like to think that I still haven't, and I think that kind of keeps me grounded and makes me work to still produce good content for you guys. And I just hit 1 million followers on TikTok, and I'm so incredibly grateful. But I was always taught, and this comes from my brother a lot, we were always taught growing up to kind of just keep going, keep reaching for what's next, and never be satisfied with where you are. So yes, sit in the moment for a minute and be happy and think, this is what I wanted for so long, I made it. And I'm sitting in an apartment in Chicago. I have my dream job. I do content for you guys in the NFL. Like, I'm just so happy every single day. But I still, if I didn't have that drive to work harder and think, well, you haven't made it yet, there's still more you can do, I wouldn't be producing more content and trying to get to that next level and putting out more things for you guys. So I do feel like I've made it right now, currently in my career, but I know there's still a lot more to come. Next question. What's your favorite meal? This is a funny question because I am a creature of habit and I eat basically the same thing every single day. And it's high protein. It's literally a bowl of just ground turkey and some sort of vegetable and a cottage cheese. And then I put a bunch of spices in it. And then I usually have like sweet potatoes on the side. And I eat it every single night. I think one night the past 2 weeks I've eaten something different. It was because I went out and I got a steak. I'm a creature of habit, so that is my favorite meal. Until I get sick of it, I will be eating that every single day, probably for the next couple months. Next question. How much time do you spend writing your NFL Weekly Meeting skits, and are there outtakes? This is a great question because I get this quite a bit. And I don't think people either maybe think there's a team behind it or whatnot, but I do write all my stuff. I edit all my stuff currently, just so that you guys know it's coming from me. It's my humor and my takes on everything. It's a process. It takes about, I watch all the games on Sunday, and then on Monday I research for 6-7 hours just to make sure the jokes are, line up with how you guys felt about the games and what I think, and making sure I cover everything because so many different things happen on NFL Sunday. I want to make sure I cover all the top things, and things happen off the field, so I want to involve all that. So it's a lot of research, a lot of writing. I shoot the video for probably 3.5 hours on Monday. Get it hopefully done by Monday Night Football. I watch Monday Night Football. I start editing that night till about 1 in the morning, wake up at about 5 in the morning, finish shooting because I have to shoot what was in Monday Night Football, and then finish editing from when I'm done with that about 8 o'clock in the morning to whenever I post the video. So it is a process, but I love doing it because you guys love it, and the feedback I get on it makes me want to keep doing it. So I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for the questions this week. We'll have that every week, hopefully, or every other week. We'll have more opportunities for you guys to ask questions. If I didn't get to yours, do not fear, I will eventually. There's a lot of off-season, guys, so we'll have a lot of questions to answer. But that is it for this week on The Offensive Line, you guys. Be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, and you can watch our full podcast episodes on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I will see you guys next week, and as always, Des didn't catch it.